$25 billion. That's how much more Meta is paying to finance this new AI data center using the project finance market versus what they could have paid had they used traditional corporate debt. So why on earth is this being called a win? And even crazier, why are other AI giants like xAI looking to copy it? So quick backstory. Meta's building out this $30 billion AI data center called Project Hyperion. And as I said, they are raising money via what's called the project finance markets. Now, had they gone out and used corporate debt, which they, by the way, did just a week or two later, they would be paying about 1% less versus what they're paying on this project debt, which that higher interest rate of 1% times $27 billion in bonds that they're raising over a 24-year period adds up to roughly $6.5 billion in additional interest. So again, why are they doing that? Because Meta knows this is just the beginning of the AI infrastructure build out. And according to Morgan Stanley's global head of research, most of this AI-related CapEx is still ahead of us. So Meta structured this financing specifically to keep the debt off its balance sheet. Therefore, its leverage low, its corporate credit rating high, and ultimately allows them to access the corporate debt markets when they need it for a lower interest rate. This also allows them to leave capacity for more debt to be raised later on. Now, how exactly does this financial magic work? So, Meta didn't actually borrow the money directly. They set up something called a special purpose vehicle, or SPV, which technically owns the data center and borrows the debt. And Meta doesn't even technically own this, or they have a 20% non-controlling stake, but Blue Owl, who we think of traditionally as a private credit firm, they're the ones who own the majority of this SPV. Here's where the financial engineering gets clever, because Meta is not directly borrowing the $30 billion or $27 billion, it's really the SPV. So Meta is simply going to make lease payments to the SPV, which keeps their balance sheet clean so they don't have the actual additional debt on their books. Now, there is some additional wizardry with something called lease accounting. They had to structure it in 4-year terms. That's sort of beyond the scope of this video. But the TLDR here is that even though Meta is effectively financing and using this data center asset for decades, the structure allowed them to keep the debt off their books. And this is a structure that we are seeing being used by other hyperscalers like xAI and is reportedly being looked at by other companies as well.